I always introduce people, though it's kind of odd because you signed up, so you're here and you know why you're here. But Emily Neves has voiced more than 70 different characters. Started in the industry about 2008. Angel Beats, Starship Troopers Invasion, Clanad, a very long list that I'm not going to go through the whole thing.
Okay.
Also stage, screen, and commercials, and semi-finalist on American Idol.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yes.
Varied and broad scope of skills. And now we're just going to go ahead and open it up to questions for you guys. Raise your hands when you got one. I'll call on you, and everybody will be friends, and we'll do this all polite and adult. So, who's got the first question? Ooh, buddy. Right here.
What was it like working on Angel Beats?
It was so cool. I love that show. It was interesting because she's so expressionless in the beginning of the show, and so Stephen Foster, the ADR director, kept having to tell me less emotion, less expression, because I'm an actor, we're very expressive, so that was a challenge. And then, as it gets later in the show, she sort of opens up a little bit and becomes more emotive, which I think has a lot of payoff at the end, with the big emotional scene. But I loved it. And then I watched that show later, and I just sobbed and sobbed. Because we had moved away, and it was kind of like hanging out with all my friends and crying about us all dying and moving on to spoiler alert. I don't know if you guys know. Anyway, I loved it, and I love that show. I loved watching it too. So.
Lady in the Horns.
What inspired you to be a voice actress?
It's something that I kind of always wanted to do. As a preteen, when I was doing stage work, I had people approach my mom and approach me and say, she should work for Disney and do voice acting for stuff like that. But it's never something that I had an opportunity to get into when I was younger. And then I started doing stage work actively in Houston, and I met Andrew Love, who later became my husband, and we were really good friends, and he said that it was ADV back then, was looking for female talent, and so I went in and I auditioned for Stephen Foster and got a small bit in a bit role in Kiba, and kind of fell in love with it. But I'd always liked anime, and high school, shows like Akira, Vampire Hunter D, and things like that. So it was kind of a sort of a dream job. So something I've always wanted to do.
John Lafront.
You did work with Angel Beats, and did you get, when you were doing like the script work, I remember a couple different voice actors were saying, we don't get the whole story, but afterwards, after we watch it, did you realize it was going to be like this dark anime all of a sudden?
No, I had no idea in the beginning. And she starts out as kind of the villain.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I try to, when I get cast in a show now, watch all of it beforehand so that I know what's going on. But that was kind of cool, being surprised by, thinking that this character is one thing. She doesn't have a lot of lines in the beginning. She's sort of the villain, this evil thing, and everybody's fighting her and trying to kill her and stuff. And then as the show progresses and you kind of see that she has everyone's best interests at heart and she becomes more endearing, it hit me. It's weird because I think it hit me harder not really knowing what was coming. And then as I'm watching it, as I'm recording, I'm getting chills now. Like, I love that show. And the impact at the end, that, like I said, that final scene, like, it just slayed me in the booth. And I was like, I'm getting a little emotional now just talking about it. But, so I think that kind of being surprised in that instance made it more impactful in the end, which is weird because I really like to know what happens to my character in the beginning before I go in, just so I can sort of tweak the arc, and see, okay, what do I reveal as far as characterization now, as opposed to, what the story forces me to reveal. Like, it's kind of like partitioning out, whatever the word is, portioning out character a little bit at a time, so.
Well, you nailed it.
Oh,
It turned out really well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Next question, gentleman in the back.
What's the most difficult role that you've done so far?
Wow. I think that Grave of the Fireflies was really difficult because at the time I was 30 or 31, 30, playing a 2-year-old. So that's a real challenge. You know, I mean, my voice naturally is not super high. I mean, so I staying all the way up here the whole time and then trying to emote and trying to, you know, convey the struggle of these poor children, you know, war-torn and all that, and laughing and crying, but staying like way up at the very top of my register. That was really difficult. And then I guess likewise Inga and Ungo was really difficult, sort of not for the same reason but for similar reasons. You know, trying to stay in the little boy part of my voice when that was appropriate, when I was playing the little boy, and then jumping to the true form, just trying to really delineate that contrast and not like veer in both roles towards the middle to where they both start to sound the same. So, I don't know. I'd say those two.
John up front.
Let's steer this conversation away from the very depressing now. What's a role that you had like the most fun with? It's just like you walk into the booth and you're just like, wow, this character's just out there.
I actually did something very recently that I can't talk about yet. It was sort of like that, where I got to sort of talk in a French dialect, you know, but be really crazy and huge, which I don't get cast as those roles very often. A lot of times it's the really, you know, heavy dramatic stuff. But that's one. Ungo was really fun for that reason, because the little boy version is really silly, and I kind of like talking in that, you know, that register and being sort of crazy and mischievous. Katomi Ichinose was really fun too, even though she gets hardcore. I mean,
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
But that was another one where I kind of had to be really spacey the whole time and sort of out there and kind of expressionless. But then, like when you find out her story, then it gets depressing again. So I wanted to veer away from that. But
Yeah.
here I am.
Right back to it.
Yeah. Also, Golgo 13, I played like 8 characters in that, and there was one of them, I think her name was Cindy. She was only in one episode, but she was really stupid. And I remember Steven asking me, he was like, okay, you see how this part she has her mouth open? Every time she like turns her head, will you make a noise? And so I was like, just making her really dumb, which that was fun. So I really like playing comedic characters. I'd like to do more of that, but there's one coming out soon. Well, not very soon.
Is that the one that you're going to share later on?
You mean screen later on?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No, this is like months
in.
down the line.
Okay.
I'll probably tweet when it gets announced. I'll tweet and hashtag Asa and be like, "This is what I was talking about. Watch this." It's a really small role, but she's crazy. So anyway.
Hashtag ASIN would be awesome.
Yes. Hashtag Asa.
Next question. John on the back again.
What do you have coming out now that you can talk about?
Well, I just recently made my ADR directing debut with Love, Chinibyo, and Other Delusions, which I can talk about, and I'm so excited because I fell in love with that show. It's such a sweet story, and it's so charming, and Dekamori, oh my god, I fell in love with that character. I fell in love with all of the characters, and like, cried, you know, like, when I was watching it, I kept writing to the ADR writer, like, oh, my heart, lady, oh my gosh, my heart is exploding. It's so good. So I hope that fans agree that I think it turned out really well, and I can't wait to hear what everyone thinks of it, although I'm like kind of terrified, but say that. So there's that. What else can I talk about? I think that's it right now. From the New World, it was announced a while ago, but we're screening that tonight, and that's probably in my top 3 favorite shows that I've ever worked on. It's epic, and that was a challenging role because Saki, the character I play, the lead character, starts out the show at 12, and then she grows to 14, and then 26, and then 36, and then she narrates the show at 40. So it was kind of like finding the nuances between like 12 and 14. That was sort of a challenge, and then and then going to 26 and like figuring out what the difference between 26 is and like my natural voice now at 32, and then, you know, so, but man, that story, it's so dense, and there's just so much thematically, and I mean, philosophically, it's sort of a dystopian story, but there's a lot of magic, and it's so cool. Chills. So cool.
Sorry, what was that again? Just want to show that.
From the New World. And we'll be doing a screening of that tonight at 8.
That Chris Ayers
Yeah.
he said working with you was a real pleasure in
Oh, well,
that, so.
Man, working
And
with
he
Chris
didn't
Ayers.
know I was going to be talking to you later, so. I'm
Oh,
sure that
that's
wasn't-
nice. Working with Chris Ayers is always a pleasure. He's amazing. But,
Do you have a favorite director?
Chris Ayers. Yes. Hands down. I mean, I love all the directors that I've worked with. Everybody has a different style, but Chris and I, both coming from a theater background, I think, you know, and actually it's strange, when I first recorded with Chris on Book of Bantora, I was like, I know you. I know that I know you. And I went home and I racked my brain, and I remembered that when I was 17, I was in show choir, and we did a musical, Phantom of the Country Opera. It was ridiculous, but anyway, Chris Ayers choreographed it, and he came to the school and worked with us for like 3 solid days, and I was like, that's it, that's where I knew him from. So I've been working with him for 15 years. But
Gentleman up front.
What was it like working on Starship Troopers Invasion, considering you didn't only voice in it, but you did the motion capture for that?
that was like a dream come true. That was one of the coolest acting experiences of my life, like stage, film, everything. Because yeah, I did the motion capture and facial capture for Carmen and for Trig, and then, you know, extra characters in the background, and it was so cool. It reminded me a lot of doing scenes in theater school, where you have to do a scene from, say, The Importance of Being Earnest, or a Shakespeare play, where you're just in a box, like a black box, or a classroom, and you just have a cube for a chair, and you don't have any of the costumes, any of the props, so you kind of have to build the whole world with your imagination. And that was sort of that environment to the extreme, because, you know, I mean, we're all wearing these, like, suits with the ping pong balls and little helmets, and you have to sort of look past all of that, and, like, create the world on your own, and they do a great job of, like, you know, giving you all the tools to do that, and but man, working with Aramaki was so cool. He's the coolest guy, and everybody involved in it was amazing. And then, but the cool thing about that was so we did all of the motion capture first. We shot the whole film out of sequence, like you do with the film, all the, like, wide shots, all of the action. And then we took 2 full days to each go into it's like a booth, you know, very much like an ADR booth, but, you know, they have the infrared cameras, and they put the little markers all over your face, and so you have a screen that shows what live action, what you did, and then you have audio, so you kind of have to match the cadence that you created when you did the wide shot, but then sort of call to mind all of those things, the environment, and you know, the narrative, where your character is at that point in the story, and then, you know, match your facial expressions to what happened. So it was a really cool process, and I would love to do it again. So I loved it. And then, you know, going back and also Andrew Love and I got to play love interests in the film, so that was really cool. We've only done that twice, once on stage in A Christmas Carol, and then in Starship Troopers Invasion, so that was really special. And then, you know, you watch it and you're like, it sort of looks like what I imagined in my head, which is kind of cool. You're like, yeah. But it's a testament to how great of a job they did, sort of describing the world to you, and giving you, you know, renderings of your character and the environment and all that. So it was so cool. Shinji, Aramaki, wherever you are, let's do it again. Awkward.
I keep thinking you've got a hand up over there, but it's just your horn. Now she does. Yes, go ahead.
Besides voice acting, what other, like, you know how they ask you when you grow up, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? Did you have, like, other hobbies or any other, like, careers you wanted to pursue?
Yeah. When I was about 7, I was obsessed with Impressionist impressionist painters, and I was like, Mom, I want to be an artist when I grow up, and I would draw. I still draw a lot and paint, and then that kind of continued until I was about 10, and then that's when I started acting, and I just fell in love with it, and so I've been, it's been over 20 years now that I've been an actor, and stage is my first love. I mean, I still do a lot of theater, and I think that they inform each other, voice acting and stage acting, but I always sort of knew in one way or another that I wanted to be an artist, and I draw, paint, and I sing, and I'm a writer, so if I ever wanted to leave acting, it's kind of unfortunate because I don't have anything like, I'm not good at math, I could never be an accountant. It's like, well, I would have to go from one sort of tumultuous, volatile field to another one. But I welcome that. I love it. I'm in love with the arts. So.
Sir in purple.
Since you said you did like acting and directing and even the art, did you ever think of like creating your own series, like a dream project?
I have. I mean, I've actually written a pilot, like a television pilot, and I'm working on a feature-length screenplay. It's like, I've still got 20 pages to write, and it's already 127 pages long, so I need to rein it in. But, yes, I sort of daydream about that a lot. And I wrote a short screenplay in college. I studied screenwriting and playwriting along with acting, and I wrote a short that the only way that I think it could be produced is either as an anime or a CGI. Lots of sort of mythology and creatures, and it's a fantasy. But that, I daydream about that a lot too. And then, every once in a while, Andrew and I, we're really goofy, and we talk in voices to each other all the time, which is so ridiculous. But sometimes we'll be joking around and like, man, we need to animate those characters and like, I don't know, do a little, like a web series or something where we have like, 5-minute shorts. And so yes, I'm always, the gears are always turning in that regard. I'm obsessed with creating, so yes.
I was talking to Joel yesterday, Joel McDonald, and also started in theater. And he said it gave him some trouble because he was so used to showing emotion with his body and then learning to do it with just his voice. Did you have the same problem?
A bit. With me, it was more the facial expressions, but I really think that in theater you do the same thing because there are people, and actually I think Joel and I started at the same, he worked at the Alley Theater in Houston, which is where I've done most of my stage work, and it's a pretty big house. It's not, it's like 830 seats, so the people way in the back, like they can still see your facial expressions, but not really clearly. So you have to sort of use your voice and convey emotion that way. But it is, I don't know, I mean, everybody's different. And in my experience, there's something liberating about being in the booth because the mic is so close to you and it's so sensitive that it really expands your vocal range. Whereas like on stage, in order to project to the back of the house, because we don't use mics for the most part, it's sort of, you can't project beyond, like, in your super low register, you'll lose your voice, and then the same thing. And the higher register, it's easier for me. But so that kind of, it gave me more freedom, and in another way, I was able to play characters that I would never get cast as, in real life, on stage. Like, my character in Ice, this is like big warrior lady, and I forget her name, I'm terrible, but it's all way down here, and because the mic is so close to me, I could stay way down there and still be able to convey what I needed to, but I could never do that on stage, so, everyone's different.
Another question. Who's got? Oh, yes, sir.
What was it like working on Future Diary? Since it was at Funimation, you're majorly at Sentai Filmworks. They have also the different system of the beeps, and I know at Sentai they just...
The chase method.
Chase method.
First of all, Ryu Minane's, it probably goes Yuko Saki Ryugamine. I don't know. I love them all, but that was one of my favorite shows. I mean, she's super cool. Like she's kind of a badass, so that was really fun. But I think that the mic is different at Funimation. You have to project a little bit louder, and then Sentai, I'm not sure what it is, but you don't have to use as much volume. So she had sort of a low register, so that was a little bit of a challenge, like getting the volume that I needed and still staying in that range. But the beeps, I prefer the chase method. I guess just because it's what I've done most, and I've sort of developed it's almost like muscle memory, or it's just I just do it. Like I listen to the Japanese, and then I look at the script and I try to memorize as much as possible so that I can watch the animation, and then that way I don't need a cue, because I know when my character's talking, and I know that if I'm slightly late they can move me. But the beeps, I'm like, oh, wait, okay, 1, 2, 3, okay, now I talk, oh no, wait, that was wrong, and so I get like nervous, but I really loved working on that show. Yeah, I don't know, it's, like I said, everybody's different, and I think that what you do more often is what you prefer, and doing the chase method, I feel that I go a lot faster that way. Like working with Chris, a lot of times we will just, like from the New World, I had, almost every line in the show, so we would just start at the beginning, and we would just roll, and he would scroll, and I would watch, and I would record it, and then like, if I stumbled or whatever, we would stop, but for the most part, we would just record the whole episode, and then go back, and if something was short or long, then we would make adjustments. And I remember one day we did like 103 lines in 20 minutes, just because we got into a rhythm. But the beeps, they kind of freak me out, so it throws me a little bit, and it takes me longer.
Unfortunately, we only have enough time for one more question, so if you've been saving one all this time, now is the time. Not going to get another chance.
Anything. Ask me anything.
Voice
With a
for
reason.
Kotome
The voice for Kotome? Okay.
in 30 seconds.
Kotome is kind of way up here, and I'm really good at playing the violin. I don't know why nobody wants to listen to me play it.
So.
There you go.
Thank you. And do you have one?
Yeah, sure. What was it like working on Guilty Crown, considering your character was really strong, even though she was, handicapped?
Yeah.
What was it like?
She was a super cool character, ISA, and working with Colleen is amazing. I really liked recording her, just because of her strength, and that she doesn't let her disability limit her. I mean, she's a badass, so I like that show too. I like all the mech, and she had some intense moments, and that's satisfying as an actor to get something to sink your teeth into. So, but.
Unfortunately, folks, it is time. So please join me in thanking Emily for taking time out of her busy day.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much.